everyone? Welcome back to Midwest R6. My name is Piercing, and I am here with Exia for the first time. Exia, welcome. And how are we doing today?
I'm doing great, thank you, Pearson. It's my first time casting a game ever, so it's going to be an experience and a half today.
Oh yeah, and it's great to have you. We got a good match for you guys today. We have Buena Vista University versus Kansas Blue University, Kansas. So that is going to be our matchup. Remember, this is the round of 4. So in this best of 3, whoever comes out on top advances, and whoever falls will be sent home. So this is for all the marbles. And we have seen these teams in the past make it this far, so it's good seeing them back again. Time for another go around. We'll see who comes out on top this time around. Starting off with University of Kansas. Let's take a look at those little tidbits of stats for you. And we're going to be looking at a player average rank of 141 with a record of 3-3. The roster: Kapalis, MB, Swans, The Law, and Supreme. That is going to be our first team here for tonight. And then for our second team, it's going to be Buena Vista University. They're going to have a player average rank of 111, record 4-2. Players: Soul, Vidashit. Okay, I'm going to have to get corrected on that, folks. Fully Hectic, Framing My Land, that's a heck of a long name, and Guy's Place. That's going to be the roster from Buena Vista. What are we thinking for these two teams? As far as I can tell, we're looking at a pretty tight record and a player average rank. I think this tells us we're going to have a very close matchup for tonight.
That's right. I think the player average rank is pretty similar for both teams, so we have to take a look at one of the key, we have to take a look at key fraggers for both teams to really know where the stars are going to shine today.
Oh yeah, that's going to be kind of the important marker, because when we look into lower divisions, that is a common trend, is you will have this one player who coincides very closely with round wins and round losses, and it sometimes can entirely depend on them surviving. We've seen this trend occur before. So, no doubt in my mind that this pattern will likely persist here. So, perhaps down the line we'll get to kind of see who those players are, who are going to be the targets, the playmakers, the claim to fame, and the fall to disaster player to make that happen. But with that being said, let's take a closer look at the map bands and see what we've got going on. What are our 3 maps that we will be entering into? We're going to be starting off first with Nighthaven Labs, then followed up with Border, and for our decider, Skyscraper. Oh, be still my heart, my darling. I love Skyscraper. Xia, how are you feeling about these maps?
I'm feeling a different trend for the two teams that pick these maps today, with BVU picking Labs. It can be a very slow map to navigate around, and most of the rounds in that game might come to the last 30 seconds or so. While in Border, KU's pick, most gunfight can happen in the first 30 seconds of the round.
Mm-hmm. That is a really stark contrast, and I will give you that. Border is one of those maps where honestly half, if not more than half of the fight is just getting in the freaking building. It can be so challenging, especially if you take it too slow. There's different ways of going about it. You could possibly have like maybe a nook kind of sneak in on the first floor if it's armory, things like that. But regardless, if you're not careful on a map like that, you can get slammed out before the round has really even began. So I do agree that is a bit of a riskier pick as far just overall. So I do sense a bit of confidence from Kansas University. I find the teams that are very aggressive in the early rounds have the most success on Border, and perhaps Kansas University will be able to pull off the same. But let's take a look at the map to map comparison and see if that theory actually lines up. And from that, we do see that there is no playtime from Buena Vista on Nighthaven Labs. So as far as playtime that we have seen here in Midwest R6, Kansas has a decisive advantage there. In fact, almost entirely a decisive advantage. On Border, we're looking at 26 rounds played, a win percentage of 50%. Meanwhile, Kettering is at 11 rounds played and a 36% win percentage. But where things start to get really interesting is on Skyscraper, where Buena Vista has more rounds played and almost triple the rounds, but the win percentage, despite that, is still extremely close at 50 to 58%. So, what do you make of this, Exia? What are you seeing here that stands out?
For me, BVU's pick on labs is it's very interesting. One thing, it's because they don't have any rounds played. People have no records. Oh, oh wow,
Hmm.
we have
Well, so
okay, we
stats are
have
a little bit off. We have
oh,
the rounds
sadly.
at 16 played. So they have played it, and their percentage is actually very comparable as well. So both Labs and Skyscraper are pretty neck to neck, with only the real deciding differentiator is Border. So that pretty much tells me that unless Kettering can pick up Nighthaven Labs out off the rip, we're looking at this being a very, very close matchup, but with a slight leaning towards Kettering. Xia, you seeing the same thing, or maybe you're spotting something a little bit different from me?
I'm seeing something very similar to that, but um, by the fact that BVU has played a lot more rounds on all of these maps, it seems that their games are a lot closer than KU's games might be, or maybe that they will struggle on most of these maps rather than winning them because their win percentage is pretty low.
I could definitely see that for Border. I think that one's going to be a tough fighting point for Buena Vista. But I really do think that Labs and Skyscraper could really be close. I mean, we're talking neck and neck win percentages. Neutral on Skyscraper, generally positive on Nighthaven Labs with a little bit more round experience. So their slant on their map pick is not as steep as Kansas Blues when it comes to Border, but I would still say they're all margin calls. So there's a lot of variability in this window here. But with that being said, let's take a look at some match history. Let's see how these teams have been performing all the way up to now. Starting with Buena Vista, they started off with a loss against WSU Tech, a 0-2. Then they went on a little bit of a streak with a 2-0 win versus Columbia College, which that's a big deal in of itself. Then they went against their own roster with a 2-1 win, lost against ISU Red with a 1-2 loss. Then they were able to take a 2-0 win against UNL, and then they were able to follow up again with another 2-win streak versus MST Gold, which those are some heavy hitters, especially Columbia College. So I do see a lot of potential for Buena Vista to be able to pick up another here. But let's take a look at Kansas in turn and see what they've been able to do. They have taken a loss against ISU Red as well, so that's a common trend. Both have lost against that team. UNL a 2-0 win, and then they lost against Buena Vista themselves with a 1-2, so it was a close loss. Then they also lost against MST Green 1-2, so a 2-loss streak. Then followed up with a 2-win streak. They were also able to take a 2-0 versus Columbia College, but in turn, where Buena Vista lost against WSU Tech, they actually took that win 2-1. So we do have a lot of comparison points. I'm sure you saw that too, Exia.
Definitely, but one point that I'm looking at very closely is that these two teams have actually played each other before, and the win actually went to BVU.
Right, and that is a significant indicator. But the one thing for me that really knocks down the confidence on a repeat is the fact that this was so long ago. We're talking the third matchup out of a total of six. That gives a lot of time for things to kind of shift, strategies to be refined, practiced. So there's no guarantee that that result will be replicated. And again, keep in mind, it was a 1-2-2-1. It's not like it was a decisive 2-0-0-2. So that makes it even more uncertain. This could very easily flip. But with that said, let's also kind of take a look at our round brackets and see how we got here and where we will lie next. So yeah, as you see here, we've seen Buena Vista take on DSU White, and then they took up Wittenberg R6, which was a 2-1. And now we are where we are with Buena Vista taking on Kansas Blue. So this has been a mixed bag for them. They were able to start off strong. It got a little bit close with Wittenberg. And I genuinely suspect this is gonna be another close one as well. What? All right. Meanwhile, as far as Kansas Bloom, we saw they took a 2-0, and they also had a 2-1 against Nebraska Esports. So the margins are getting really tight. I feel like this is a very squeezed, extremely close game. At least I would think so, right?
I mean, from the stats and the bracket, we can see it's very likely that we're going to go the distance today between these two teams,
Oh
and we
yeah.
might even see some OTs sprinkled in there.
I would be surprised if we did not go to overtime. I mean, from everything that we have seen up to this point, it really does look like we are gonna go the distance. I'd have to strongly agree. I think that is honestly dang near inevitable at this point. I mean, you saw the stat lines. Nighthaven slight advantage to Buena Vista. Then you saw for Border a considerable advantage for Kansas Blue. The only risk factor that I think would nullify the chances of this going into overtime is if Kansas takes Nighthaven Labs. If that happens, I would say Buena Vista is in some trouble. So it is going to be a little bit tough for them to get into overtime, but as long as they take this map, which is the only real choke point I would see stopping that, I would say there's a very high chance we're going to go into overtime. That's my call, but it does look like we are almost ready to get into the matchup. Just a little bit more. We're just waiting on one last player, so it'll be just a little bit longer. But yeah, I mean, anything else that you think that we could possibly expect to see, or anything else that you might have noticed leading into this?
We haven't gone through the key fraggers of the two teams, but I expect this to be a very
Yeah,
high kill game from a lot of the key players from both teams, since it's a lower bracket game.
yeah. Now, here's the thing that I have to kind of wonder, because this is where things get a little bit tricky for me. Do you think this is gonna be, both teams just have one player who is like way deep into the double digit kill territory, or do you think we might see like maybe a second and a third player on both teams who are also kind of racking up high, maybe like a 1.5 or 1.25 up to 1.73? Or do you think this will be one of those matchups where it really does just hinge on one player? What's your call on that?
For me, it's necessarily not to one player, but I think these teams both play around the system that they will try and support one or two key fraggers, maybe their entry or their second
Okay.
entry, to try and farm all the frags as possible and try to win purely on gunfight.
Yeah, I can 100% see that, especially. Well, not so much on Border. I think there's a lot of crossfire and team play that's kind of required to make that happen. To me, that seems exceptionally difficult to try to pull that off on Border, having one person who's just, pulling all the punches, doing all the dirty work. I don't see it happening. I mean, if you're stuck in a crossfire, it don't matter. I mean, you're gonna have to lean on someone else to kind of bail you out there. I don't see that really being reliable for Border, but Nighthaven, perchance, if we're kind of one-sided in our pushes when it comes to attack. So it's definitely within the realm of possibility, but I do challenge how far that's gonna go on Border. But what do we think as far as Skyscraper? How do you feel about that map? Personally, I know the community does not really like Skyscraper. My hot take is the community doesn't know how to play right. Sorry, that's just what I think. What are your thoughts on that?
By design, I think Skyscraper is a very hard map to get into the building, and that's where
Yeah.
all the support players as well come to shine a lot more, and they have to do all they can to try and help those entry fraggers get into the building without getting caught in a crossfire and die off rip.
Oh, 100%. It's really brutal. Getting actually being able to push through those choke points is exceptionally difficult. But one of the things that I notice that teams tend to neglect on that map is the vertical. I see it way too often. Attackers don't take advantage of it, or defenders neglect it, and I see that more often than not become a breaking point for whichever team just completely leaves it alone. As I see it, Skyscrapers is one of those maps you cannot go in one-fronted. It's literally not possible. Unless you have a very specific setup that allows you to kind of create this cavitation bubble where you can walk in uncontested, I don't think it's possible. It will hit you too hard. You will get spammed with nitros, nades from below, Buck, Zoe, Ash, everything under the sun you could possibly think of, you will get hit from, and it will cause significant problems. So I would say it's one of those maps where you don't even have to play around vertical. You just cannot give it to the other side uncontested. You do that, you're going to lose. Doesn't matter if you're defense, doesn't matter if you're attack. You let that vertical go completely ignored, you are screwed. So that's really the sentiment that I have going into possibly Skyscraper if we get to that point. But I really do hope we get to that map because it is getting taken off of the competitive pool. We are not going to see it for much longer. And so for me, this is kind of like a send-off, you know? A final goodbye to a map that was not well liked, but in my opinion and in my heart, criminally underrated. But in any case, we're still waiting on that fifth player. So might be just a little bit longer. So I'm going to pass that spotlight on to you, Xia. So you said this is going to be your first cast, right? Or one of your first casts, right? How are you feeling getting into this? I know it can be a little bit gut wrenching. I remember my first time. It can be kind of crazy.
It's already creeping in. I can feel it in my stomach already. I can feel my arms shaking and whatnot. But I'm gonna try my best today, trying to get out all the best that I can give, and we'll see how it goes from there.
Well, I can tell you one thing for sure. We appreciate you showing up. So already, thank you. And I will say this, from my time, I've done a lot of public speaking. Heck, I've even I think it was when I was still in high school. I had to appeal to a town hall meeting. It was basically they were gonna get rid of a teacher for a club, and yeah, I had a whole speech that I had to give about how that was a disastrously poor choice, which I was correct. It ended up being a terrible choice. They went through with it anyway. But yeah, I mean, stuff like this, it's a lot of public speaking. It's not easy. It is not easy to get in front of a camera, get in front of an audience. It can be really tough. So for anyone to be able to do that is truly commendable. This stuff ain't easy, folks. It can be taxing. And I will be 100% honest with you. It's kind of drawing on, so that's kind of where I'm rambling a little bit. But with that said, we do finally have that fifth player in, so we should be getting right into this very soon. Starting off with Nighthaven Labs. Folks, are you ready? Because we're going to be getting right into this very soon. And yeah, I expect this to get bloody fast. So, band-wise, what are we expecting to see from these two teams? Do you have any insights on that? I have been seeing a lot of hard breacher bans amidst the rework. Do you think that's going to be kind of the expected outcome? A hard breacher is kind of just getting wiped out?
I do think so, yes. But with the new season and the changes to the hard breaches, I don't actually expect all of them to be banned. And with us seeing right there, Blackbeard is the first operator who's banned today. Interesting.
I mean, he's still incredibly repressive. You can't blame anyone for getting rid of an operator like that. That don't surprise me in the slightest. But the follow-up is a little bit interesting, though. Mira and Blitz. What are we thinking about the Mira? I mean, I can understand how oppressive she can be, but I think we are far past the utility meta where she was just absolutely terrifying. To be honest, I don't really put that much weight on her. I mean, if you don't back her up, I really don't think she's that much of a threat. What would you agree with that, or do you think Nighthaven presents a unique layout that makes her particularly dangerous here? I think it's kind of
I
overstated.
I agree with both those points actually. Mira is a pretty oppressive operator on this map, and those two spots are very strong for a Mira. But you do need a heavy setup around a Mira for it to work its magic. And I just can't see that with the operator choices that we have now. So I think it's a great ban from BVU.
Oh, yeah, and I can absolutely understand that. But either way, I'm kind of a bit of a skeptic because I'm always thinking in terms of like systemic strategy. I don't think it's simply enough to, just look at the surface and be like, okay, yep, we got to get rid of it. It's dangerous, it's threatening, it's whatever. I think you got to kind of go a little bit further and look into your own team playstyle, your own dynamics, and see how it correlates or contrasts with the presence or absence of that operator. And to me, I think that's far more important. And when you put it in that lens, I think many teams have really heavily geared themselves towards adopting around Mira, so I don't think it's necessary anymore. But in any case, it's out of the picture. Starting off with second floor, and we're already seeing quite a bit of contest on IT and getting that wall open. I doubt they're going to be having too many problems. They already have it soft at this point, but one thing that I am particularly interested in is seeing how much power DMRs are going to be bringing forth. We've seen a new DMR that's been made available, and it's already being put into effect. The 417 by Farming already taking Hembapu down. That's the first one out. And that's Malusi to debut too. A bit of passive utility, but still gives them an advance to play around, especially with Monty already pushed so far up.
I mean, with the operator choices, okay, Blue, we can clearly see their game plan is to try and slow down the opposing team. But Monty is already up the rafters, have already contesting into CC, and I think their strat is crumbling down on itself here, with them losing three smokes very, very soon. They will not get any plant denial chances if the attackers manage to get a hold of the site here. But Swanky is trying to contest into IT and gets Farming Knight straight out immediately, but he is fine and down to a 3v2. Soul FM gets a pick onto Law. We're down to a 4v2. Immediate trade from Capolis, and we're starting to slow down now.
Yeah, I think your mention of utility stall and how I got burned too quick was actually a really big deal. I mean, now smokes are coming out, the pressure is just mounting, and they've been given too much space to play around, but we do see a bit of a save from Maestro. Supreme trying to make the most of this situation, but gets completely caught out from balcony, and that's going to be Guy's place to be the one to finish that job there. I do give a lot of credence to what you're saying there. That utility burn was way too fast, especially with the way that the gains that they had in order to execute. You would think with that kind of utility investment, they would be able to go deeper, but they just simply were not able to hold that off and prevent them from getting that dive, but it happened anyway. So, I mean, that does put Buena Vista at the lead, and a very convincing one at that. I mean, we're talking 45 seconds plus to spare to try to recalibrate, adjust if that execute which went wrong, which it didn't. They didn't even need that time. It all went according to plan. So for Kansas Blue to try to re-attempt this, they're gonna need to reconsider their utility allocation and their spacing. Since, yeah, like you said, it just burned too fast. But now I do see the law has switched off from Smoke into a Rooney. So what are your thoughts on that? Do you think this is coming from the idea that a Rooney or a Smoke just wasn't impactful, or maybe there's something else?
To me, Smoke was the most impactful operator from last round. He stalled out the Monty for the longest time, but he just didn't have enough smokes to stall out Monty because they lost Rafters so soon. And I'm gonna bring a bit of blame to the Malusi in the early round. Now he just took a gunfight and lost Rafters in the first 30 seconds, and that just lost them too much map control too fast.
Absolutely. That we did see an immediate snowball once Malusi went down. That absolutely makes sense. But the thing that I'm curious of is having Capitalist on Bandit. I do have to wonder what the benefit of that is, especially when you got a DMR holding such an angle. Capitalist almost just got absolutely domed there. That was incredibly close. Does manage to get back though, but I really am confused by the Bandit pick though. Because you know they're going to bring a Maverick. That's coming in from Soul. And they just get that wall immediately. I mean, you even had Thatcher shoot out the bandits that were already there off the rip, and now he begins to push into warehouse, and already they're on balcony again, like we were talking about. Oh no!
No.
That could not have been more poorly timed. That's gotta suck, because all that warehouse capitalization just went out the window immediately.
And that's a very key operator taken down as well. The Monty, the one who's going to give them so much map control so easily, taken off the board immediately by a team kill. Ooh, that's going to sting. As we
Yeah,
move into...
that's not a good moment.
Oh, okay. As we move into mid-round here, the game starts to slow down a bit as the attackers will try to set up a different type of execute since they still have Raptors control. They might look into attacking upward instead of Raptors and IT now. But the defenders are also very isolated into the sites as they have no rotate into the connector. And if the attackers can isolate fights, as they did following my land get Supreme, they can still get a pinch onto the attackers who are just sitting ducks in sight.
Enemy device at my 12.
Trades are coming in very fast here. Sol gets 2 picks. He's trying to... Malusi's trying to trade him out, but to no avail. And we're putting down to a 4v2 situation for BVU as they're trying to pinch 2 last members of KU. Taking some pot shots here, it's the Polis. Even though it's a 4v2. Oh, they got in sight. I don't know how, but Nomad's already planting. Malusi's trying to make a race for herself and push through. But she has to take so many angles all at once.
Uh-oh.
I don't think she can make it out today.
Especially not with those bees coming out. No way on earth. Already getting tagged. They pretty much know exactly where she's coming from. But like you said, it was pretty much they were completely boxed in. Once they get that IT, electrical, and warehouse control, it's almost like everything freezes for Kansas Blue. They are not really able to push back or fight it off, and that causes such a significant struggle for them. So I don't really see going forward how they would be able to take that, because really the key struggle is the lack of pushback. You kind of saw they were very reserved as they were advancing rapidly in electrical, and that costed them dearly. Going into the next time they play that site, if they choose to at all at this point, that's probably going to be the biggest struggle for them, is figuring out what to do when they are right at your doorstep. Because obviously, as we saw there, you can't just hold passively. They have a time advantage, and they know how to execute there. So that doesn't really work. But it does seem, as far as basement's concerned, we are seeing a little bit of an interesting op pick from Kansas, and that's going to be Supreme rocking the Scoopos. And I'm sure someone's going to mark me for saying that incorrectly. I don't care. And that makes the most sense to me. Yeah. But in any case, I do see them trying to bank heavily on that roam. And with this being a bigger map, if Supreme can get in an ideal position to hide, maybe they can get some damage in. Try to disrupt the execute itself. Hold steady on site and just go for blood. Second floor walk down. Maybe that's the play. I mean, you do have those stall operators again. Swan on Tubarao. The Law on Smoke again. So that very well could be the play. But if it is, that all depends on Supreme staying alive.
And he does. He gets a pick off of it as well. He immediately switches to the clone, but he gets the candy call right at that moment. Very unlucky for Supreme. He's trying to create himself a way out, but he gets traded out with Vanish Mine immediately. Couldn't get out in time. Unlucky for Supreme. But I can see the pocket strat coming into almost great effect there for Supreme. As he gets the pick, tries to get out. Just a bit unlucky on that front. But the game is slowing down a bit here. Defenders have quite a bit of map control, not the same as with the last 2 rounds where the attackers just was in one of the key positions in the first 20 seconds. Defenders this time actually have a bit of vert, but they're already trying to compact right back to side. They're not contesting anything. above here. It is very interesting how they're leaving upstairs so soon, is it?
Yeah, timing wise, this is a bit too early, especially when you have such a threat like that. I mean, do keep in mind, there are 3 nitros available. That's a lot of utility to get some serious damage out on them. But then the question becomes, how much damage can you capitalize on before they make that downward move? And can they ideally catch out Void on Monty? Because if they can't get that operator out, I really don't see how they don't fold under the pressure, because that operator has caused them problems. And we do see a nitro goes out, and that's not going to connect for any considerable damage. And yep, Monty's going to be a persistent threat, already making that walk down to Exo. This is going to be a problem.
Smoke trying to take a fight with the Monty, but Guy's play from behind denies that opportunity for Smoke to get a pick on the Monty. Opponents gets the pick onto the Ram, and that's Monty's support gone. And Saul gets picked off. I'm farming my land also. It's down to the Monty against all 3 standing members of KU Blue. We're on 6 seconds to go. He's trying to ADS, looking for 1v1s. Trying to get the clutch, but I don't think that's possible at this point of the round. You can try to find a pick, but no. It is too slow coming from BVU. They got control of Vert with 1 minute to go, but they were just so slow at getting that Vert and getting the map control downstairs, and it costed them very, very dearly.
I was quite surprised by how slow they took that. They had been very convincing on their executes as far as second floor goes, and then you look at this on basement, and yeah, it was very slow, especially with the time advantage they had. Usually that translates into a better outcome advantage, but that just didn't happen here. We didn't see that at all. In fact, they kind of split up a little bit and got absolutely whiplashed, which is quite the turn of events. But to be granted, basement is often seen as kind of the handout site, unless you can really whip up something special between the outside walls of basement, the breach, and vertical, and the walk down. It's a very thin line to walk for any team, really. That can be quite tough to manage, especially when you have even one player down. I mean, you consider just how much navigational space on site that Kansas has, and even if it's a 4v4, it doesn't matter. You have so many crossfires and spread outs available, and yeah, you have a diminished capacity to put in a multi-fronted attack, which is kind of necessary. So yeah, you can hardly blame Buena Vista for the unsuccessful attack, though granted they did still try to put up a fight. But yeah, being slow there prior to the execute certainly did not help.
KU Blue is trying for the 3rd time going to the upstairs side here, and I'm seeing very, very different operators compared to the first 2 rounds, with the Vigil lurking downstairs as it's been so successful for Supreme on the Scopers. He hops out immediately, gets the Damus, and that's the Damus scanner gone. Capolis trades out Soul as well, and that's also the Heart Breach gone, and the only Heart Breach capability left is the Soul charge on the Grim, and if they didn't get IT wall, which I think they did, they're not going to have any pressure on IT.
Yeah, this is a lot more aggression coming in from Kansas Blue. They got a taste of what that could do for them in basement, and they decided to ramp it up. And so far, they've been very successful. I can guarantee that Buena Vista was not expecting that first floor play from Supreme. Oh, hello, that's a one-tap there. Shot. Blow for blow, too. Buena Vista suddenly taking it back. Great aggression initially, but now we come down to the lead up into the execute. This is where Kansas Blue has choked in the past, and unfortunately for them, the numbers have evened out. How they play this out in this stage has historically been quite bad. Maybe they can change that here.
That's where we can see how volatile being that aggressive is. You can get a lot of picks in the early round, but also if you overshoot just a slight bit, you can get traded out immediately. And from a 5v3, somehow they managed to bring it back to a 3v3 instead. And with the Monty, The advantage is all but on BVU's side as Farming My Land gets the law with a great pick, and the Monty is just in CC for free, going for the plant. And he has a lot of cover from IT, and Malusi and Spanish just can't push up. But the plant's down here, and a perfect crossfire from the Grim and the Zofia, and the Monty just sitting there. I don't think there's a chance of KU here, unless they can hit some disgusting shots.
Unfortunately, yeah, they have given too much ground to Monty, allowing him to go for the plant. And already another goes down. That's bringing it to the 3v1. And yeah, that IT room flank is just going to finish the job. You got to deal with the Monty. Monty has been pretty much the round-winning thorn on their side as far as second floor goes. I kind of casually hint at this phenomenon as the Monty problem, or really the shield problem. Fundamentally, can you handle having someone constantly breathing down your neck? And this is a common choke point for competitive teams, even collegiate too. If you can't handle the stress of having a shield down your throat while still being able to manage your space, give space when it's necessary, but also fight space when the chance is available, it requires coordination and communication. And if you're just acting on your own, or you can't handle that pressure up close, shields will absolutely wreck your day. That's why we see shields players so much, because a lot of teams don't have a good solution to the Monty problem, and it tends to be what breaks them in terms of rounds. And clearly, every time, with one exception, that Monty has been alive, Kansas Blue has lost. It kind of mandates additional aggression, and Kansas Blue can pull it, but as we've seen now, with a bit of mixed results. Early round, good. Mid round, not so good. And if you can't handle the pressure of Monty, you kind of want to keep a player advantage so you can expand your crossfires to nail that shield down. So we'll see if Kansas Blue will be able to adapt to that, but so far, they're having a tough time with it.
See Supreme back on his shenanigans on the top floor, just running around, trying to make a nuisance for the attackers. And because he's the Vigil, drones can't see him, so they have to actively look for Supreme to actually secure top 4 fully.
Oh yeah, Vigil's always a real thorn to find and isolate. That's always been kind of the little hunting game, and especially when you consider Buena Vista's composition, they kind of made a mistake there. Supreme has been a considerable problem point for them on that operator. Oh, does that Nitro connect? No, it does not. Kind of long arming it there. Kind of a hope and a dream, but there is no dream to be realized. But back to what I was kind of saying before, is that Supreme has been a problem for them. So it is surprising to see, composition-wise, Buena Vista has nothing to deal with Supreme. And so far, he's still running around second floor, minute and 25 seconds remaining, and they have not dealt with him. And right now, he doesn't even need to fall back. He doesn't even feel pressured sufficiently to mandate falling back. He already got a good lick onto Thatcher there. So yeah, this is big trouble for them unless they can get him out, because that late stage flank, that'll kill executions. And so far, we're seeing blows going back to back, and he's still sitting coast comfortable. This could be bad.
They do have information on Supreme now, though, as he's yellow pinged on the drone, and I do have Gridlock as well, trying to lock the Vigil down from moving so freely. And with the Monty pressuring Supreme directly, I don't think he can do much else here, rather than just run away, and he gets traded by Fully Hectic on the buck, and that's a thorn in their side gone. Now they can just focus on the vert and the execute BVU. I think they're in great position for another round here.
Maybe, but look at the time though, 23 seconds. They're gonna have to get a move on soon, and they might be walking into a death trap here if they don't position correctly, but they do manage to catch the law. That's Soul for a double kill here. 13 seconds. We're seeing the pushback, mid reload, 1 remaining. That's low HP. Diffuser going down. This is looking really scary, and yeah, backed into a corner. Not a lot you can do there. I was a little bit concerned about the time, but for an open site like this, they were able to still hold their positions and form their crosses, and they didn't rush in. If they had just ran in and funneled, they would have gotten absolutely swamped, giving Kansas that round. But they were able to hold second by second, and that's important. Even if you're low on time, you still have time. Any time means you still have options. With the exception of like maybe 5 seconds left, there's generally still room to maneuver, which means there's still room to slow it down. And Buena Vista handled that time crunch beautifully. It's what allowed them to pull through for that round. But for Kansas Blue, that's gotta suck. Because Supreme took away so much of their time. But despite that, their sight hold down on execute just did not pull through for them. Once Buena Vista gets to executing, Kansas Blue can be pretty much in a bad spot.
I mean, we can really see why BVU picked Night Haven Ladley, as I don't think KU Blue, even if they've played a lot of rounds on Night Haven, I don't think they're very familiar with the layout or the way of the pace of the map that is. And they are just being stuck on a few different strats with Supreme roaming and the rest being on site. They can just fully clear out Supreme and they have free roam, the attackers have free roam to do whatever they want. And BVU, as we've seen, they can be aggressive and they can also play very slow as well. They are being very adaptable to KU's very static, kind of one-note playstyle, and that's why I think BVU is having this great of a lead so far.
Oh yeah, this is a tremendous lead to have on Night Haven. We're talking about a full round, or pretty much a full round advantage above what you would typically expect. Though, Kansas, they are on the site that they won the last time they played it, so there is certainly a high probability they could bring it back into a 4-2 scenario. But either way, on a map like Night Haven, which is defender-sided, it's still not ideal. It does mean Kansas Blue is going to be operating at a disadvantage going into this. And that could not have been a more poorly timed jump in from Soul. And unfortunately, that's going to cost him his life. You didn't have the backup. Sure, they finally cemented the control, but you lost your Ard Breacher. And that was kind of a weak spot for them, is that they didn't have that outside wall setup going for them, that breach. And now they're definitely not getting that opportunity. They don't have the utility to make that happen, but despite that, they do manage to catch the law. That is a Rooney. So they are back blow for blow, 4v4.
And we can see, again, this is a situation where you got caught off last time as well. They didn't have pressure on the main wall. So if you got tunneled into pushing all 5 people into X zone, and they just got caught in crossfire after crossfire. Sure, they have one person on vert, but that one person can't cover 5 angles all at once. And we can see that situation repeating itself now with the Monty and Ram behind him, and with only person covering vert. I don't think they can hold all the covers.
No, that's a lot of line of sight to deal with, especially vertical. But to be honest, they can pull shots like that and they can push back on this shield, then they should be within comfort. But that vertical is absolutely going to be a problem. But now we're seeing a problem. You still got a player above, and that is going to be the Mute, who's now making their way back down. And you have Buck and Monty kind of split up at the moment. This is going to be tough to digest, but despite that, Monty's going to still go for the plan. If Buck goes down, that's going to be it. But does manage to get that pick out. It does look like they will be able to get the Fuser down, so the fight's still on. And with a quad kill to boot, it's a 1v1.
With the tap on the diffuser, Bob knows full well where the bandit is now, and he's trying to pre-fire the angle, but no! Capolis with a great counter pre-fire. He gets rid of fully hectic. Very, very close round there for KU Blue. But I think that BVU just got so tunneled into that exo push. They were lucky that Buck got so many picks.
Yeah, that was unbelievably unfortunate. I mean, that was a really good run for Buena Vista, but yeah, just kind of overplayed it at the very end, out in the open. Didn't really have to check it like that. But I mean, hey, either way, at the end of the day, they still have a 2 round advantage. They're still looking good as of this time. So there's not really a whole lot to sweat in that case.
Mind you, the 2 round advantage they had was on attack on Night Event as well, which is a fairly defender-sided map as they go on to the defense now, and it's going to be very much favourable for BVU to win this map out.
Defenders, protect your bombs from being defused by attackers.
I do wonder how Buena Vista will hold out on their own defense. But I would say, considering they've had a bit more exposure, they'll probably be able to hold out a bit better. But from what we can see so far, looking at this composition, it does look like they're going to be going for not really a stall, more of an outright positional denial. You've got Frost as well as a zombie with utility commitments onto balcony, including a kite, which I can tell you right now, that utility is going to get shut down immediately. But then again, you also have Tuber out the tag team in order to get that stalled utility back up as soon as possible. So it really does seem like the methodology here is going to be outright denial, which could work. Despite having that iconic Thatcher right there in my duo, there's no Maverick. So if they mistime this, they very well could not get that wall open, or it might cost them dearly. But either way, from Kansas Blue, it doesn't look like they're going to be going for warehouse as much as they're going to be focusing heavily on electrical and IT, evidenced by the presence of glass.
As you mentioned earlier, it's very much a dance between the Caden Tuberau combo against Thatcher Thermite combo. But with the new season changes, I think Thatcher now has 6 charges, and he can just fully deny this case for the longest time. And as you can see there, he just couldn't trick it. And Tuberau also, he is nowhere to be seen tricking main wall. And with IT open, PU Blue is free pressure into rafters here where the Yazami is sitting.
Yeah, now they have an opportunity to really capitalize, stack on that pressure, but losing the Blackbeard does kind of put a big halt to that. Now you don't really have a blocker for electrical. That makes that hopping a lot more dicier, and as we clearly see, they still have warehouse balcony established. That is still firmly within their control. However, Kansas Blue looking to upset that from warehouse. They do have that first floor presence. They might try to shake that up, but at least for the time being, they have backed off, and they still have that squarely within their control. The only wiggle room that Kansas Blue has at the moment is IT. Something else has got to break. Otherwise, Kansas Blue could be looking at a bit of a rough execute. They're already a player down.
We can clearly see the difference between BVU's defense now and Cleve Blue's defense earlier. As we can see, they have a lot of map control everywhere. Cleve Blue just can't find their footing into the map yet. Soul, he is just running around farming frags at the moment, but Cleve Blue, they are not trying to get any map control whatsoever. Baz tries to get a pick onto the cage, but to no avail. But Swan does trade out farming my land. And they have a footing into IG now for Polis. He's trying to find a pick onto anyone here. Baby Blue does have map control in electrical and IT, so they can orchestrate a push here with the glass as well, smoking off, trying to find picks onto the person on CC door. But Swan gets picked off, and I think the push is dead. But no, Capolis gets 2 picks. But he gets straight out immediately. 7 seconds left. Glaz tries to play around his smokes, but with the Yazami still up, I don't think he has a chance here, and a shotgun puts him down immediately.
No diffuser.
And no diffuser as well. It just stings.
Pretty much. Yeah, it just sings an inevitable demise as far as either time-wise or just your life itself, which ended up being the case. You had to hunt for kills, was strapped for time, and that ended up being the result. The thing I want to really point out, though, is the funneling. That was really where Buena Vista was capable to punish extremely hard. There was only one front that was truly open. We saw at one point that Kansas Blue was positioning themselves to contest and try to take Warehouse, but that never happened. They never went for it, which is kind of a shame because a disruption in Warehouse would have given them a two-folded angle to really dig in. They never went for it. And here's the thing too, when you got an operator like Blackbeard, if you want to send that operator solo, you absolutely can. Opening a 3 front over by Fountain, IT, Warehouse. That's a pretty solid office side push. But they never really went for it, which is quite a shame. It was a missed opportunity for Kansas Blue, and I really do think that could have given them what they needed. But either way, they went in funneled without their shield, and it proved too much for them to handle. So, going into this next round, it does look like we're going to be heading into basement here. Let's see how Buena Vista handles this, because Kansas Blue had quite some good luck on us, and it does seem they're going to try to immediately go for that wall. But so far, already one attempt that's unsuccessful. They have pretty much one last attempt to get this down, and that's going to be here. Another Thatcher shot attempt. It doesn't connect. That one does. Now they're trying to get that thermite charge going through. Okay, it attempts to trick, but does not succeed as they do end up successfully getting that wall open. A minor delay, but either way, they still were able to get open, and honestly, that's all that matters. And it looks like Kansas Blue is going to try to go in very hard and aggressive here. We have a full fronted rush in, trying to go for a plant, blows 1-to-1, and now diffuser's going down. Is anyone going to stop it from happening? No, the diffuser goes through, but not right after the death. So that's going to be a noble sacrifice for a noble cause. 3-3, diffuser down.
I think it is resolved now. And going on to this round, Diffuser's already planted with 20 seconds left. And I don't see BVU making any attempts to try and retake this Diffuser. People has very good crossfire, great pre-fire points. He goes straight onto the Diffuser. Vidic Mine and Falling Mine land on the cover. Can they successfully do it? Great. Line up by Vidic Mine, he gets both of them. Wow, that was just... Wow, to be fair, that was a bit hard to watch. I don't know how they let that Goyle just run through the site like that straight to Diffuser, even though that's a great pre-fire onto the person outside the breach.
Yeah, that was hard to watch. But to be fair, that's kind of the consequences for going for a pocket plant with that. So there's a few subtle details to keep in mind, which leads to what we saw. The left side of the wall, the advantage, it gives you immediate access into the key line of sights to start popping shots, which is exactly what we saw. But because they lost their first thermite charge, they couldn't get the right side of the wall. The advantage there, you get a clear line of sight into watching the diffuser and the cross, and you don't have to commit as much in order to stop diffuser. Because of that first breach charge being destroyed, even though they ultimately got the wall open, because they didn't have that line of sight, that was all it took for Buena Vista to have that same pocket to take to their advantage to defend diffuser, meaning that, or the counter diffuse. So in order to break that off, they have to dive in. And yeah, Cade was not having any of that. It's a tough situation to be in. At the end of the day, Kansas Blue still got the plant down, which is already better than what a lot more teams could ask for going for such a bold play. But the fact remains, if they could have just gotten that right wall open, that would have been a completely different round. Because pushing through a line of sight that massive and planting in such a contested vision position is basically impossible. But Buena Vista didn't have that problem. They didn't have to deal with that. And now we see that we are in match point, and the timeout was indeed called to try to make the most out of this situation. And now they're on first floor. Xia, do you think that there's a chance that Kansas Blue could take this first floor around and keep themselves alive a bit longer, or do you think we're about to wrap this up?
I think KU Blue getting that plant off was a bit of a honey trap, and I can see a lot of aggressive operators now. I think they're trying to go for like a fast plant again, but BVU's operator lineup is very much ready for that with 4 C4s on the board and a pulse. They are very much ready for any fast plant shenanigans going on here.
They probably know.
And with the line scan, they are going straight in there. The train, right after the blitz, he gets the first pick on the nuke. That's one C4 down, and they are just in sight now. But the pulse again, if he's not spotted, that could spell a lot of trouble. Big trades are going on upstairs. Now down up to a 4v3, but Pulse loses C4 and he doesn't know that the plant is going down. There's not sufficient vert onto the planter, and PUB gets a plant off again in the very early moments of the round. But their members are getting traded out one after another, and it's a 3v1. The Law has to clutch this round to keep KU's hope alive on Nighthaven Labs. So the hounds are closing in. I don't think the Law being 1-7 right now has the best chances of clutching out this round, but who knows? He might come up big here. Oh no. And they're already on the Soul's already on the fuser. Oh wait, he gets off with 7 seconds left. No, the Law couldn't clutch it in the end.
Wait, hold on a second. Okay, I was wondering for a second. I was like, wait a minute. That stall might have just been just long enough, but no, it was not. Buena Vista, they come out on top with a very decisive scoreline of 6-2. I mean, we're talking barely losing any rounds, or 7-2. Barely losing any rounds whatsoever. Quite an impressive performance from Buena Vista. Though, to be fair, it was looking slanted in their direction. But, man, who could have predicted that it would have swung in such a massive way in their favor? So yeah, Buena Vista, they're the ones to take it out into game 1. With our next map going to be Border. Xia, do you think that this is a sign of what's to come for Border? Or would you say this is just, playtime differential and we're going to see Kansas Blue get their licks in? Because we saw those last 2 rounds. That was very, very aggressive. So I wasn't a fan of that. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, so I am curious what you think on that. But I do think that tells a little bit of what we can expect from them in Border. I think they're going to be extremely aggressive.
I think Labs was a great teller to how Border is going to go. As we saw, KU Blue went for a lot of aggressive strats, and I think that's where they thought that it worked, that it clicked. They went for a lot of aggressive peaks, a lot of aggressive pushes, and it worked for the beginning of the round. And for Labs, getting the wins at the beginning of the round doesn't mean you're going to win the round, because most of the wins you're going to get is congested into the last 30 seconds trying to get inside or holding crossfires for people pushing into sight. But for Border, that's going to be a different story, as most of the gunfights and trades are going to happen at the first 30 seconds and in the initial entrance into the building. And I think KU's strategies are going to stand a lot more chance on Border instead of Labs.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that they will have a much better time on Border playing like that, because yeah, that did not work for them in Nighthaven Labs at all. I'm really surprised they doubled down on that on the timeout. I would have thought they would have pivoted to something else personally. But in any case, that's it for game 1. We're going to be on a quick break, and then we'll be moving into game 2 Border. This one should be a flip to the other side, and we'll see if that comes to fruition. But with that being said, we'll be right back, so stay tuned.
I don't want you to know them upcoming new ones. Money watch out. Money watch out. Them stink like my money. By the way, I don't want you no nice. I only want you to river.
That's on the beat.
All
Hi,
right,
welcome
and
back.
we are back, folks. We have just gotten through game 1, and we saw a pretty big win for Buena Vista. I mean, they held out very, very convincingly, especially on their attack. They were able to really put in the works. Their executes were incredibly strong, and Kansas Blue just could not get the pushback they needed, leading to a 6-2 map 1 win. Now we're going to be moving on to Border, which is map 2. And with that said, we've also got a little bit of background for you guys. So let's take a little quick look at some quotes from the two teams, starting off with Buena Vista. What sound does a beaver make? Skog. Okay. That's news to me. I actually don't know what sound a beaver makes. So I'll believe you, Soul. And from the side of Kansas Blue, we've got the real KU. Okay. Prove it. You got a map to really showcase that. Border, this is supposed to be your strong spot, so show the whole audience that you are the real KU. And then, let's take a look at the lobby kill leaders. Let's see who is really taking the stage in that respect. And it's gonna be full on Buena Vista with fully hectic, farming my land, and Soul at a powerful 184, 183. Surprisingly very close for the top two. I mean, extremely close. We're talking only a 1 kill difference. You don't see that every day. And then you've also got Soul with a 161. So the kills are very evenly spread across the players. To have your top, all 3 players, lobby kill leaders, and with such a low player or a kill differential, that's kind of a big deal, wouldn't you think, Exia?
Yes, I think with the lobby kill leaders being fully dominated by BVU, it's going to be difficult for KU in the next map as well, because it's a very aggressive map, and if they can't get these aggressive frags on border and just getting reverse farmed by VVU, it's going to be hard to execute their very aggressive playstyle that we've seen throughout Not Even Labs.
100%. I think that will be a serious risk, but I also think it indicates that there's not really a kill leader to hunt for. But with that out of the way, we are going to be getting into this map, game 2. It's going to be Border. Let's see how Kansas Blue holds out on their map pick. If Buena Vista can hold their grounds like they've had before, I think it's going to be a different environment, so I think it's going to be more challenging. Kansas has more experience here. I don't think we're going to see the same runaway here, but the kill leader like that, or kill leads like that, does seriously suggest there could be room for a major shakeup. Especially those 3 players get extremely active, and we're already seeing 2 operators who makes it very gun heavy. Those bans gonna be Mira and Blackbeard. Getting rid of those, as well as Cade and Monty. I mean, I don't know what you're thinking, Exia, but to me, this screams this is gonna be raw bullet for bullet. There's not gonna be a whole lot standing in the way. Though, it looks like Buena Vista is gonna try to make that happen anyway with Blitz.
With very similar bans as to the last map, Cade, it's very strong on the first floor site here on border, as he can electrify most of the hatches, and Mira is just very strong playing those power positions. KU Blue, however, sticking with the Monty ban instead of the Blitz ban this time for the shields, which they have been very much struggling to deal with throughout Not Even Labs. I think they're trying to slow down BVU a little bit on the shields, but with the Blitz still on board, I don't think that's going to work out very well. And Wiedeschmein, he's been a great space maker for BVU so far on those shields, and he's just been wrecking havoc on the KU defenses.
I have to ask though, what are your thoughts on the castle and starting first floor? As far as border goes, that is really, really unusual. I'm honestly taken aback by those choices. What do you think of this?
I mean, for the castle on first floor, I think most of the castles are going to be put in the second. Oh no, most of our castles are in the first floor, but usually when I see the castle in border on a first floor defense, it's going to be to set up a second floor hold on the vert in order to try and lock that area down for as long as possible. But with most of the castles being on the first floor, I think KU Blue is going to play a more loose style upstairs here and trying to get frags and trying to fall back downstairs, playing around those castles once they've fallen back.
Yeah, I don't know how to feel about that. Oh, but we will see Buena Vista take an early pick out, and that is going to be onto their dock. Try to go for a run out, and it did not go very well. However, we do see that Guy Place takes a significant amount of damage, though. We're talking very, very low HP. Actually, that might be literally 1 HP. So, hey, very unfortunate, but that's kind of how the MP9 works. It's a bit of a pea shooter if you don't nail that headshot. By the way, that does make it a little bit precarious. Nomad's going to have to play it back quite a bit just to keep themselves alive for a bit longer. Meanwhile, we're going to see also Legion take a significant amount of damage too, as already Soul's on the first floor over by Workshop. That's a lot of real pressure already starting to creep in. These are some major ground advances for such a small map. On top of that, Soul taking Supreme down, now down to a 5v3. This is already a lot of pressure. Now, all of a sudden, having that Nomad, even at 1 HP, it's just the fact that she's live is still a benefit than anything else. You're able to now cut those Nomad charges, able to block out those walk-ups, which can wreak havoc. We've seen a lot of border attacks fail first floor because of stuff like that. But no, despite that, they're going to have that cover, as well as additional vertical offered to them. And using a drone instead of just peeking that vertical, really smart. 'Cause really, like I said, it only takes one dry bullet, and that's going to be it. But clock is starting to tick. 42 seconds. Going to have to start moving in soon to try to go for a drop. But having someone on the sidelines ready to pounce is critically important. But unfortunately, Nomad will inevitably go down. And as X is on the clock, you got to make a move soon. As the more you wait, if another player goes down, especially Soul, this could get nasty. Oh no! Misses the frost mat! Does manage to get off of it now, but now the defense is a lot closer, trying to fight it off. Diffuser now in the process of starting. 10 seconds on the clock, and Blitz goes down. It's over. The flank cover is down. Soul, but they do get defused. That's ultimately what matters. Blitz taking significant damage. It is a 3v2. Shield still alive. The flash comes out. The pistol whip. It does connect. Castle's down. Now up to the last player. It's a 1v3. Has to get this Blitz player down. But the shield's up. The vertical's there. And it's just gonna be a done deal.
I think we've seen the worst that can happen to KU Blue there, as we've discussed before the match. If they can't stop those attackers from entering the map in the first place, it's very hard for KU Blue to keep any sort of map control, even though they have a lot of very late game operators like Frost or Legion that can very much slow down the attack in the last 30 seconds, with Blitz just kicking into a Frost mat and almost not having enough time to plant down the diffuser. But for
I am getting word that we do have a bit of a swap. I kind of forgot to mention that. Yeah, the law has been swapped out. Is not present for this specific game. I believe that was switched out with, let's see here, save players. Yeah, that was the player that was swapped, or what the swap was for. So we do have one different player. But either way, yeah, this was not what I was expecting. For Buena Vista to come out immediately with that advantage. I was really expecting that, Kansas Blue was going to play a bit more aggressive initially, but from the amount of grounds that Buena Vista was able to gain, that ended up not actually being the case. So, I mean, what do you think of this, Exila? The fact that Buena Vista was able to gain so much grounds, I think that's a little troubling.
Yes, definitely. I mean, with the Blitz still on the board, they can just get in the building for in the first 10-20 seconds of the round, and KU Blue is still not setting up for that shield play whatsoever. They just put in one or two people on the top floor trying to fight that Blitz alone. That is just not working out. As safe players now is isolated in break room again, and he gets down immediately and taken out with the gas charge. That is just not great for the upstairs defense on the side of KU Blue. And they've lost map control all over again. It's the same story that we've seen throughout most of these rounds, they just lose out on the gunfights in the early game, and then they just lose all map control but the site, and they are just sitting ducks waiting for BVU to come and sweep up.
Yeah, and as we talked about, losing any kind of map control this early on is honestly like a big deal. This is one of those maps where you really want to maintain like full building denial, and the fact that Kansas is struggling to do that, it really speaks volumes to how consistent Buena Vista is on their attacks. They are able to make solid ground and keep their word on it too when it comes down to the execute as well. Granted, the execute was a little bit shaky for them last time, but either way, it doesn't really matter when the effect is still the same. You win the round, but this is a necessary pushback developing, coming in from Supreme, able to take one. That's gonna be big. Getting rid of Void. It's now gonna be 4v3 as the refrag does inevitably come through from Guy's place. 57 seconds left on the clock, but they're still on the doorstep, and I think that is the more threatening narrative than anything else. Buena Vista is basically just an unstoppable force, able to take that territory, and that does present a dire threat. But now comes the ultimate choke point when it comes to Armory, is taking that step to get the plant down. Do keep in mind that Kansas Blue still has a Nitro in hand, and the longer that is held up and the time goes down, the more of a issue that becomes as they try to go for the plant. And here comes the first attempt coming in, now attempting to defuse. Does that Nitro connect? So far, it's about to be completed. No Nitro throw. Where is it? It's too late. Diffuser goes down. Exchanges blow. Now 3 and 2. Diffuser down. Long lines of sight, causing trouble as we will see a snipe coming in from Foley Hectic. Now to 2v1. Another pick comes through. That's going to be from Aruni. 28 seconds. Has to make the push. It isn't happening. It's locked down. And we will see another win for Buena Vista. They gain those grounds, and once they have it, there is no getting it back.
We can see the Rooney pick coming into question for KU Blue for most of these rounds. They've picked a Rooney for most, if not all, of their rounds, and I don't think she's bringing too much utility onto the board here. It's not slowing down the attackers in any way, shape, or form, and she is also not winning any gunfights with a DMR either, even though we are in a very heavy DMR meta right now, with them being so strong in the defense. With all the fully auto ACOGs taken out, DMRs are the only source of long-range gunfights that the defenders can take. But the play on Aruni Swan is just not bringing them into the question in most of these rounds. As we're going back downstairs again with the Aruni pick, and again with the same castle setup that they've tried to play around, but came to no avail in the previous round that they tried to defend this site because they lost upstairs so easily.
I think there is something to say picking an operator to solve a problem that you should never have in the first place on a map like Border. Because you're right, Aruni's not really having the utility that they want when they're already gaining so much vital room control. And it's pretty much trying to solve a problem that you should be avoiding at all costs in the first place. The problem isn't how do we deal with them gaining control. The problem is they're gaining map control in the first place, and they're getting such strong initial entries. As a defender on Border, that is the last thing you want to encounter, but right now, that is Kansas Blue's cruel reality. I mean, look at this. They're already down into Z-Hall. There should have already been blood drawn from this, but they have almost full second floor control at this point, and not even a single gunfight. Positionally, I don't see that as tenable.
Outside of the first attempt to try and get a spawn peek from safe players on the dock here, KU Blue players just playing very compact and close to each other, which could be a double-sided blade. One, they could set up trades and be very efficient at trading people out, but two, they could also be very isolated into gunfights with players holding Vert, and that's just a very difficult fight to win, even though they have very good guns on the Aruni and the Legion.
I mean, if you don't use it, those guns can only do you so good, if any at all. With 1 minute and 30 seconds remaining, vertical now fully established. It's just a matter of time before they make that walk down. eventually bullets have to start flying, because at this rate, with how much vertical they already have, this is not looking good. But they do finally get that pushback. This is huge into Archives that they do try to mount an attack. Soul goes down. It's now 4-on-4. The Blitz putting the pressure, and the pain is real and felt, as we will see Supreme go down as well. Now a 4v3 situation. A good pushback attempt coming in from Kansas Blue, but Buena Vista was better ready, and it just came a bit too late. As the time ticks down, now for the shakiest part, the jump. But there is a breath of fresh air for Buena Vista to breathe. There is no nitro to be held. There are no impacts to be held. So really, it's just a matter of dropping and going for the defuse, which we'll see right there. Because who's going to be able to stop it? Nobody. An attempt coming in from Capolis, but goes immediately down. Same with the castle. Now going to be up to Swan, the saving grace, to try to save this round in a 1v4 with a shield up. Folks, I hate to say it, I don't see that happening. That drop down was just the final nail in the coffin. Too much ground gained.
We haven't seen much adaptation from KU Blue so far, with the operator lineup being basically the same every round regardless of the site, and they are leaving map control for BVU to take even faster than before, with no one playing on the top floor in the first part of the round. And with the blitz ban now, they hope to try and prevent that early map control more, but I just don't see that coming with the way that KU Blue is playing right now, even with the blitz off the board.
Now, the adaptations from Kansas Blue is really making me nervous. They have to crank up the aggression. They just have to. It literally is required. That's just the nature of the map. And when Buena Vista just takes so much room control, it just gets rougher from there. Because remember, Buena Vista is very good at their executes, and they're quite consistent at it too. If you do not stop them from gaining map control, it literally is just running into the inevitable. Even on a pushback, they are still able to hold their grounds. We have seen these attempted flanks time and time again, and it really has not meaningfully derailed Buena Vista from getting a solid execute. They don't typically do enough, with the only exception thus far being basement on Nighthaven when they were attacking. That's been it. Otherwise, it doesn't really do much to them. So they have to start ramping up. This is a step in the right direction. Safe players looking to go for a cheeky little spawn peek. I like the attempt of confidence, but whether it's real, whether it's a facade, it all depends on how this plays out. That's not a good start. The Warden ping immediately. They're already onto it. But I do wonder how this plays out. If they can hold their life and deny that map entry, that's a step in the right direction. Ooh.
Safe players already getting picked off the board here, and that's the Warden holding CC, a very key position off the map, already lost again in the first few seconds of the round. KU Blue just can't keep any map control, which takes Damus into a even better pick now that every defender is isolated inside. He can just scan and shoot them from below. If he decides to go below and with the Kebi on the board, the positions of the defenders are just locked down. They just can't do anything about it.
Okay, so we do see a big pushback, though. A bit of a run out, able to catch two, though, does result in a refrag to Supreme. But either way, the damage is done. That's now putting it to 3v3. Well, 3v2 now. Spoke too soon. Caster's Curse. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to it. It is a heck of a thing. But with a minute and 25 seconds remaining, this is a lot more doable for Kansas Blue. Though, again, it's still that powerful march they're fighting against. And historically speaking, that execute can be one heck of a thing to fight against. That pushback was good, but, I mean, the fundamental problem's still there. They already had gained significant map control.
A very interesting pick with the Cali coming in from Flying Milan. He's picked it twice already. With Border being him having to hold a lot of narrow angles and the capability of destroying all these electronics, on paper, Cali is a very great pick, but there's a reason we haven't seen it picked a lot in professional play. It's just that Cali shots are just very hard to hit, but he doesn't seem to be missing at the moment. Capolis tries to go for a C4 to deny the breach, but it's just to no avail. BVU,
Now the
they are
march.
closing on the side.
Oh yeah, they're closing in very fast. 22 seconds on the clock, and it's just going to be a matter of time before that pressure folds. And there's the 90 angle. That's going to keep them completely boxed in. And now it just comes down to holding on to Archives, which does fall. And that's going to be thanks to Farming My Land. And now the Fuser's going down. A pushback. One pick goes out. Can't stop the Fuser, though. Tries to throw the Nitro, but gets caught out in that beautiful window line of sight. And that's the one spot where Cali is really the strongest, especially because of that lance, which allows them to get that wall soft and ready to be breached. This is looking very good for Buena Vista. Their executes, they're so consistent.
KU Blue is trying to change things up a bit here. We can see the Vigil coming out again, this time in the hands of safe players. He is going to try and do some roaming shenanigans and try to deny that map control that BVU is just getting so easily here. The Azami pick is also very interesting for this site. Since there's not really a single power position to lock down, I don't think the Azami can provide a lot of utility for this site.
I wouldn't say so. She can be useful, but that depends heavily on having strong screening side control. If you don't have that waiting room control, I don't think it's gonna be as useful as you would want to think, especially if they can get bathroom side open. Once you're surrounded, I don't see how Azami will have the utility that they think it does. So I question that too. I do question how much good it's going to really do them. Because again, it's solving a problem you shouldn't have, which is that initial building presence, which falls apart very quickly. It's the same song and dance we've been talking about this entire time, and Buena Vista is just unstoppable in taking that space. Maybe it could be used more aggressively for outside, which is exactly what we're actually seeing. Swan using that for armory could help significantly with that second floor entry, and we're going to see if that actually pays off or not, because that really will tell the tale, and already not off to a good start. Save players, you gotta stop dying at the beginning of the round again. Soul to take that. That's another time. I think almost every round, safe players has died within the minute of the round. That's a big detriment. That is really huge to have a player go out immediately. I mean, we're talking already building control over in Z Hall. That just makes Swan's job even harder, especially when you've got Candelas rocking out too.
I think safe player is just put in an unwinnable position here. He is the one who's trying to go for these aggressive picks and these aggressive upstairs hold, but he is alone in most of these situations, and the fact he's not winning a gunfight just means that KU Blue just can't hold anything.
Whoa, that was a nice shot. That's going to be that vertical pick coming in from Fully Hectic. It's now going to put them to a trade, as Buck will also promptly go down as well. That's going to be thanks to Swam. The Candela's going out. We're now looking at 4-2 as KU Blue players start dropping like flies. Double kill comes out to try to even the odds, but the fact remains they have both been reverted to first floor. They're now backed up into the halls in the back of sight as Vertical continues to ring down. And it looks like they're going to try to go for a window hop in. With the vertical they have, the Candela's flying, they are in prime position to try to go for this hop in here. Now that the fuse is initiated. Unfortunately, Nomad does go down. Do they stop the fuse? Or they do. This is a big turnaround as it has suddenly became effectively a 1v2 with 26 seconds remaining. And we see Ying is still stuck up above. This actually has whiplash into a potential round win for Kansas Blue. With 15 seconds remaining, there's not really a lot that can be done here, especially with no Candelas in hand. Going to have to just gun it and go for kills. Can't connect the shots with the secondary pistol, and that will give Kansas Blue their first fighting chance, their first round win.
It's a very unfamiliar mishap coming from the side of BVU, as they are usually very careful with their executes. Jacob says just can't provide any adequate cover. Coming into the last round of the first half here, you can see a very drastic change in the operating line of BVU Blue. You can see Ella and the Mozzie coming out, which can be a teller to a more aggressive playstyle that we've been looking for this whole match for KU Blue to do. They just haven't been doing.
Composition. This is pretty new. Now, see, I do kind of have to wonder, now that we're going on to first floor again, do we think that we could see Kansas possibly turning this into a 4-2, making the most of the situation, or do you think this is gonna be Buena Vista's round as well? I'm not sure how to feel about going into this round. I think at this point, what can be said is there's just not a lot of building denial support. Like you said, some players keep going down first, and there's just not a lot of support. Do you think that might change here, or are we gonna see that same media?
Different operator lineup can usually mean two things. One, they're actually trying to change up the way they're playing. Two, they are just feeling so pressed that they're falling back to their comfort operators, and that is just going to make things way worse. But safe players, though, taking out one, immediately getting traded out there, that's again safe players down for the count in the first 10-20 seconds of the round. And I think what I'm saying is coming true at this point. Swan is just literally just hiding, and the Mozzie, what I forecasted as, you know, a very aggressive oriented operator, is just hiding inside. I don't think KU Blue can do anything to stop BVU from taking obsessed control. I might be wrong here.
Wow, yeah, some big pushback coming in. An absolute fold on the building presence. Sad that it took this long, but that was beautiful. The pushback, the collapse, the initiative, that was everything that Kansas Blue needed in order to secure a round. I mean, look at that. Great initiative on the stairs to shut down Buck, to end that in pretty much one of the best ways that we have seen for them. That was wonderful. That is peak building initial entry denial. Depth and media building presence. It was contested ground trade. That's exactly what you want on a map like this. That couldn't have been a better turnaround for Kansas Blue. The fact remains, though, it came too late. Buena Vista had a killing on their executes, and it is what has brought them for a map 1 win and has given them this 2-round advantage. They have a gift here. Now let's see if they can hold on to it for their defense, or if attacker side just really is that much better here, which I don't think is the case.
Defenders, protect your bombs from being used by attackers.
The bans coming out from both teams here, BVU, they banned Grim and Damus, which are very intel heavy operators, which gives the attackers, it can give attackers a lot of map control early on and late, in the late round as well. KU Blue, bans are seemingly to their nature, bans blocks that can prevent very aggressive early round strategies with the Flash and Mirror being banned. But I haven't seen that aggressiveness from KU Blue. It might change since you're on the attack now and have access to shield operators that allow you to get so aggressive so easily without needing to worry about their gunfighting ability.
I'm weirded out by that. I've been fixated on that ever since I saw that. On order, yeah, can't see bring it out of play. I can't see it.
With the new class change of season, have a shield down, have pull out a gun behind him, he can be a very great operator to stop aggressive pushes, as he can just activate the shield to slow down shields and attackers, and just have a gun behind him and pick off anyone that tries to push her. So I guess it's a great ban if you're trying to run shields, as Supreme is running the Blackbeard here. And the mirror on top of it as well. KU Blue already in the building.
Ooh. Yeah, I guess that does kind of eliminate that problem for you, but what doesn't eliminate the problem is the fact that Buena Vista is taking that initiative on an initial building denial, and they're getting a good lick in, already getting rid of Supreme, putting it down to a 5v4, now trying to get that office wall, but you still got break area and security, which are hotly contested territory by Buena Vista as of this moment. That office push is going to be complicated if you get pushed from the eastern stairs, which is a very real possibility that they are accounting for as of this time. With a minute, 23 seconds to go, it's starting to slow down just a bit. The question then becomes, who makes the next move, and what is it going to entail? As right now, it doesn't seem like there's a clear goal as of this moment. It's been kind of scrambled, and security and break room are still firmly in Buena Vista's control.
Siege can sometimes be a very rock, paper, scissors like game where a strat counters another very so heavily that it might be impossible to win. A very aggressive strat like KU's running can be countered by a heavy crossfire oriented strat like BVU's running. And I think BVU is just playing the right hand every single round so far, and it's just basic. And it basically comes down to personal heroics that has saved KU for 2 rounds, but I don't think it's going to happen on this round, as 2 of their members are already taken down low, and they have no breaching capabilities left, so those walls are going to be kept closed, and they're going to have to funnel through doors being held by 2 or 3 people at once. It's just not going to be possible, but Swan gets a pick though.
Yeah, they're going to be running into a bloodbath here. 3 seconds to go. Has to go for defuse or try to find 2 picks. That's not happening, as you still have Kaid sitting in that archives corner there. It was way too slow, pushing into a death funnel. Like you said, no breaches. What can you do? That's a tough call for anybody. Losing that thermite really did end up sealing the deal for them. And now we're looking into a 5-2 situation. We're very close to a game set match point as of now. It's looking very close and very dangerous for them. They have to get their attack together. Once they got that building presence, can you really call it building presence though, Xia? They didn't have security. They didn't really have Z-Hall. They were kind of ultra funneled. Did they really have building control and it was execute, or was it kind of doomed from the start?
I think it was doomed from the start, yeah, because the Blackbeard was taken out very early, and all the map control that they took was given to them by BVU to try and play together more, to try and stop that only very funneled push that KU Blue can do in the late round with the Heartbreach already out of the board.
Yeah, I don't see the vision right now, as Buena Vista is doing such a great job punishing at the moment, and they're maintaining key room controls that traditionally you would not have at that point. If they can hold on to positions like that for extended periods of time, yeah, we're looking at a threatening environment. But I don't like this castle though. I don't like the idea of just castling off this entrance area, because you're basically just giving away free space. I mean, look at that. They have waiting room. They have entry. Already, that's a lot of space in adjacent to site that's now in their hands. What's the angle from Buena Vista making such a bold setup from Castle? I think their biggest advantage was being able to hold map control and not giving anything up, and I feel like they just kind of handed it for free.
On the contrary, I think BVU is trying to lure KU Blue into a fake map control strat, and with the castle being there, with support from Vert and from all around, I think they're trying to lure KU into a kill box here, where if they try to take the castle out, they're just going to give up two, three or more people just to get this position, which is definitely not worth it at this point of the game, where KU Blue is already so far down the lead, and like I said, Castle gets the first pick, but immediately traded out though. KU Blue, even though they're taking out the castle, they haven't gotten control of that spot of the map yet, and Swan is just giving out picks for free like that. I just don't see them doing any more.
Yeah, I do see what you mean though, as time has stalled significantly as of this time. Well, unfortunately, the feed just crashed. But yeah, I see what you mean. Like, the time stall was severe there. We saw all the way down to a minute, almost no castle utility had been touched. And they were taking heavy hits. I mean, we just saw 3 players go down. If I had to guess, this is probably going to be Buena Vista's round, bringing it into game, set, match. Which, I was not expecting this. And I have to say, it's counterintuitive, but when you consider how long it took for Kansas Blue to mount an attack into Archives, it does kind of make sense in a twisted kind of way. Because if you can just hold everything else, why not give up space that's going to inevitably be lost if they're already slow to take it, if it means that they have to be even slower just to touch those castles and then be forced into an even tighter funnel. So I do see what you mean. In a twisted way, it does kind of work because the conventional rules and challenges of defending border don't really apply to Buena Vista because they are maintaining map control that otherwise shouldn't be happening. They shouldn't be keeping this control for almost an entire round, but they still have it anyway. And that's a gift to them. It allows for additional options that otherwise might not be possible. But with that said, unfortunately, because of this technical difficulty that we're having right now, we are going to go on a quick break. So once we get that resolved, we'll get right back to you. But until then, stay tuned. We'll be heading to a break. All right, sorry about that, folks. We are back, and we are getting ready to finally see who's gonna come out on top here. Are we gonna get to see Skyscraper, and I finally get to get my send off for my baby, my map, or are we gonna see this come to a close, and I don't ever get my send off? Which right now it's looking like it could be a possibility, as Kansas Blue did actually take the win there. Wish we could have seen it, because I would have loved to have witnessed what went wrong there. But Exia, I guess that castle strat, giving up that space, was not the play. You still want to keep it.
Yeah, yes. And in the end, KU Blue really got funneled into that blue position right there, and the crossfire was from basically every angle. But I guess if you just win all the gunfights, it is an FPS game after all. If you win all the gunfights, you certainly will win the round. No matter how good the strats you play or you make, if you just lose the gunfights, you're inevitably gonna lose the round.
Right, 100%. I really do think that what it came down to, if I had to guess, was that territory gain actually ended up being a problem for them, because it did give a buffer for Kansas Blue to speed up their push significantly, to the point that they were breathing down Buena Vista's throat, or their face, or whatever the expression is. I can't remember. Faster than what they were anticipating, and it just proved too much to bear. Either that, or just some gunfights went absolutely terribly. We'll never know for sure. In any case, we're now going to be going back into that same site. We are going to see Buena Vista run it back, and they're bringing the castle again. But this time there is a bit of a change. They do have that Solus. So it does look like they are going to try to hold from outside the confines of those castle walls and try to give them a rougher intel game and to execute.
You can also see a change in the operator lineup from KU as well. With them bringing the floor, it's going to be very easy to take those castles down and open up the map as soon as possible to not get funneled into that same spot again. But Soul, he gets the first pick on the Supreme. That's a blitz gone. That's no more aggressive pushes coming up from KU Blue. And if they can't be aggressive, KU Blue is just lost almost most of the time, as they have no map control at the moment, with Solis still occupying CC, and he gets a pick again at the same spot.
Ooh.
No, this is just going in all the wrong directions so far for this attack from KU.
I think that they're taken aback by the fact that they're having to fight outside of the castle. Before, they could just walk all the way up to it with no problem. And right now, they're facing significant pushback. I mean, we're even seeing Hembepu taking significant damage as well, down to about 75 HP with a minute and 15, and they're still getting stuck above. Buck now going down too. You got Warden, Fully Hectic, and Soul, who are making chaos above, and they cannot gain any solid grounds. This is not looking good. Another one down. That's Flores. It's a 1v5 with a minute remaining. That is obliteration onto second floor. It seems that Buena Vista was able to find the flaws and fix it incredibly fast, while getting a clean lick of wipes in turn. Possibly even a flawless round, as long as they don't get too greedy, which I think we might be close to that, considering Swan is playing very passively. But I don't think we got much more to cover than that, folks. This is a nightmare scenario. We try to take second floor all the way to first. Yeah, we're going into match point here, folks.
Swan just has to clear too many angles now, and to KU's benefit, they did actually try to change it up a bit and try to cover a lot more ground in the early rounds of the game, but I don't think they're comfortable with playing so spread out and just get picked off one by one in different places of the map, and it just ends up collapsing. The attack ends up collapsing in of itself.
I'm so glad that Buena Vista did not double down on just staying within the castles and doubling down on that. I'm glad they actually committed to playing outside of that. I was already skeptical of that setup, but this time they pivoted. They still kind of kept it a little bit, but they played on the outskirts, which you have to do. Just because the room control takeover is slow does not mean it's no longer an issue if they have it. Doesn't mean you could just give it up for free. And it seems that they have learned that lesson incredibly fast. Now putting Kansas Blue in a do or die 3-6 situation. Everything from here on out is going to have to be flawless. And we do see they are going to be selecting Buena Vista Armory Lockers. They are going to be on one of the hardest sites to beat as attackers. I'm going to be honest, Xia, the odds don't look good for Kansas Blue. I think Buena Vista is in prime position to end this.
Attackers need to
And so far from the operator lineup that I can see, it's not looking great for KU either. Even though attacker repick is a thing and you can change it mid-prep phase, it just doesn't look very cohesive. With the Thatcher, he can disable a lot of electronic gadgets, but also BVU's not bringing too many exposed electronic gadgets. They have Lucy's and the K. Actually, I might be wrong on that front. There is a lot to deny, but I think denying those gadgets does KU any good. And we can see he's switching to the Ying now, and that will create a lot more space and help KU be able to take a lot more space aggressively.
Okay. I was a little worried at first. That composition did look a little bit rushy. I was going to say, surely they don't try that again, but it doesn't look like they're going to go for it. So, based on this composition, what are we looking at as far as where the push is going to be coming from? Is this going to be multi-fronted, or are we looking at possibly a standard armory open up and then an aggressive push onto there? Because Ying's Candelas do allow for some very flashy pushes, and there's no warden in sight, so it is going to be a problem.
I think KU's goal here is to try and go for a CC take with the Flores breaking all the Azamis and the Ying flashing in to take the space aggressively. But they do have to set the push up beforehand, and all the utility that is being set up by the defense is just still there. They cannot push in at the moment. Even if the Ying flashes in, there's still Malusis, there's still barbed wires that the Flores has to clear beforehand. And if that takes too long, the attack is going to get stalled out again, and it will come down to the last 30 seconds with BVU Crossfire still up. KU's just going to stand no chance again if they don't clear out this utility and get rid of the people in CC as quick as possible.
Slowly but surely, they are gaining some space, though. They do have that waiting room balcony control. That is a first step, and they've also got some pressure over into break area. Right now, Soul is pretty much all alone at the moment with no backup. One good Candela placement, and that can be out for commission. And there it is, Soul being the first one taken out in turn. That's already a lot better for Kansas Blue. That's a good opportunity. They took their time, and they were able to get their first clear quite decisively and with minimal pushback. The Kevy calls coming in, trying to go for the hunt to find any outliers, and that big one is going to be Malusi. Holy hectic. Supreme goes down. That's going to be thanks to the shotgun blast coming in from Guy's place. That's over Armory side, unfortunately. So no more Dekebi calls. They are going to be able to roam with just a little bit more risk averse as far as getting spotted out. Another one going out. That's the big ticket loss. Ace Hemapu going down, bringing it 4-3. No hard breach, and look at that. That's even worse. Diffuser down in office too, and you've got one holding very close, defending it, and that's going to be Vadishmine who will be protecting that. This suddenly just became far more precarious, especially 22 seconds on the clock. Like you said, that utility ain't burnt off, and now they're going to have to fight just to grab Diffuser to even have a chance. 15 seconds, Diffuser still not in hand, has to push office alone. Will Ying be able to save this situation? One goes down, Ash backing up. They still do finally get Diffuser with 3 seconds left. They have to go for the plant. Planting close to the soft wall. That's a little gutsy. Ying taking significant damage. Goes down. Do they get Diffuser? They do, but it's promptly followed up with a knife. Time is out. Diffuser, counter diffuse. It's inevitable, and we will see Buena Vista take it 2-0. Who'd have thought? I didn't think. I honestly thought maybe Kansas Blue had a bit of an edge. But hey, you know, When casters say what could or will happen, expect the opposite. Because, yeah, that was not on my radar.
It
At
was a total shutout coming from the side of BVU. They were just countering everything that KU had to offer, and the lack of map control really costed KU the majority of the rounds. Even when in that last round, you can see they got CC control, but they didn't use it. And at the last bits of the round, BVU got back control of CC and just shut out KU completely, holding from CC all the way into office and killing that very important hard breacher in the late round.
Oh yeah, and Buena Vista's executes. Who can forget that? They were just unstoppable. Any attempt to try to hunker down site, they always found a way to pick it apart, and with such extreme veracity too. It was always well coordinated, and they had a built-in resiliency to where even when Kansas Blue wanted to initiate a flank, it wasn't happening, or the impact was mitigated. They were well structured in their timing, and they were able to operate on a crunch too. And that little piece, that time crunch operability, being able to maneuver with options in such a constrained amount of time is a genuine gift that Buena Vista fortunately has. And it's exactly what I would say has brought them out into a decisive 2-0 victory, as they will advance, and unfortunately for Kansas Blue, they will be going home. But we're not done yet. We still have an interview coming up. So keep an eye out for that, as we're going to see just exactly what makes Buena Vista tick as they advance further. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
I don't want you to know them upcoming new artists. Go to watch out. What watch out? Them stink like my money. By the way, I don't want you no nice. I only want you the river.
They're gonna be
Touch the tree, don't care tree market. Go to them. I don't want you to know them upcoming new artists. Go to watch out. What do watch out? Them stink like my money. By the way, I don't want you no knife. I only want you the river.
Dead on the beat.
All right, and we are back, folks, and we are here with Soul. So, firstly, Soul, I want to say congratulations on your guys' win. You won it out big. The last time, it was a 2-1, 1-2 matchup the last time you played, and this time, you kind of swept it out. So the first thing I want to kind of open up with is, what do you think was the main difference maker going into this that resulted in such a dramatically different outcome? What was kind of the change for you that allowed you to really punch up this time?
Honestly, a lot of it was just kind of going over our game plans. We've been kind of like practicing on like ideas of like how we wanted to play. We, with game theory with Siege, we kind of went with the old rock paper scissors theory. Um, and we were just kind of playing based on numbers game. Like anytime we've noticed that we had an advantage in man advantage, we take the fights, and when we're disadvantaged and it's like a 1v2, we just hey, we don't need to peak this.
Okay.
A
Yeah,
lot of
kind
it
of
was
risk
just like
mitigation.
communication and comms.
Gotcha, gotcha. Now, one thing I do kind of want to bring up was basement on Nighthaven. Every other round you guys won, but Nighthaven basement on attack kind of was a bit of a sore spot for you. What were the challenges that made that site particularly difficult? Because it seemed that once it came down to the execute, which ironically was your strongest point, the execute there just wasn't quite there. What was the story in those two specific rounds?
I would say a lot of it is just like the mid games. All right, we have early game set, and then just going from early game, mid game, and then end game. It's a little bit of our trouble, but a lot of it was, I won't lie, KU's Rome game. They did their job, man. They would pull us in and they would waste our time.
It's interesting you mentioned that because your flank watch was actually another strong point. I would say, and maybe you have more to comment on this. To me, it seemed that one of the big reasons your executes were so consistently powerful across both maps was the fact that once you gained room control, you locked it down. Is that a part of your incorporated strategy? And how do you go about ensuring that your executions remain uninterrupted? Because for the most part, you guys really, even if you did get flanked, it didn't really stop you from getting the job done. What could you testify to that capacity, being able to be uninterrupted in your executes, even despite active attempted flanks?
I would say this: the biggest thing is utility. Drones. Drones are very helpful. I think we put a lot of time actually. You know, managing. Hey, we got 2 picks off. Let's just reset. We watch our flanks and then think about how we're gonna set our executes. It's just take space, reset, and continue again.
Yeah, if you have the time, you might as well spend it planning it out rather than going in kind of half aid, which you guys were really good about. You were pretty concise rather than trying to just run it down. Ixia?
I want to touch a bit on your shield player. Is he does he play shields normally, or is he just put in this role because you know that KU is very much afraid of shields since they basically banned it every banner they had?
So actually, I was the original shield player.
Oh,
Uh, I was I play IGL hard support, so typically I would be shield player and start setting up. And throughout the last season, we came together as a team. Like, hey guys, let's actually think about how we want to play, and make sure let's play a little compy here. Let's try learning different ops, different roles. Try to be more flexible, right? I'd rather have a team of flexes and a couple entries, just so we can actually be able to execute our stuff.
I mean, it looks like you're adapting very well to the current meta, which is shield meta. Talking about new meta, how do you feel about the new season? This is I think, the first comp game that is played in the new patch. Has the changes to the game impacted your game in any way, shape, or form?
Um, Not a whole lot, other than just the Heartbreakers just got a little bit of a buff. It just seems they're giving more support to the support operators, right? Like Thermite getting 3 heart breaches and then a secondary shotgun, which I love. I love Thermite, and then Habana losing the reload animation, and then Maverick's canister reload as well. Like that stuff is very handy, especially on the attack. You know, on defense though, um, it's about the same. It's still kind of like util heavy, which I like. Um, Siege has always been something that I enjoyed in terms of strategy.
Okay. So one thing that I've noticed on Border, the first time you guys defended on that map, it was you pretty much were holding, I believe it was security almost all the way to the end of the round. That is not typical for a border defense, which you guys did incredibly well in holding key positions that are typically expected to be lost, but you held it down for a deep amount of time. Then you pivoted, and we noticed this. You went for a castle, and with that operator selection, kind of went for this almost funnel approach, but it ended up actually giving away some free space. What was the mindset behind that operator pick and trying to funnel and letting them have those spaces? Because unfortunately, we didn't capture it, but it did look like it ended up kind of biting you in the butt and causing a round loss. What was the decision making around that specific
So,
round?
a lot of what we've been really trying to work on, um, especially for that setup, it's been just straight up contacts, swings. Um, we would kind of like isolate players to come. So we have utility usage as well for anyone that tries to come in east or even square top square. Um, but typically it's just a burnout time. Like I'm just there to play my life, and sometimes if my teammates are watching or if I'm not paying attention, they could just easily take it. Right? If they try to execute me, there's like a three-way, pretty much a two-man cross because we have a player looking deep into break door, a player looking to deep square door, and then a player playing 90. So like it's a three-way contact. They're trying to get one man, but we're gonna take two with us at least.
Yeah, that did make sense because when you held that power position, you drained a significant amount of time, and then that round came in, and that's what I kind of got a hint at. But either way, with this interview, we are kind of running down on time. Ixia, do you have any last questions?
Nope.
All right. With that said, Soul, do you have any shout outs or any last comments you want to give before we close this one out for tonight?
Yeah, I want to give a little shout out to an org that I kind of run, Forgotten Monarchs. Look at their Twitter. We're kind of also looking for players as well. Shout out to some players that are also looking for teams. So, at Bagu, at Sooks, and then a big thank you to those players, including at Roxo and Stone. Those guys, they're fantastic. Including one more player, Apple Juice. Great man. All great players.
Outstanding. And with that said, Soul, thank you for taking the time to interview with us. And to the audience, thank you for watching. And Exia, just want to say thank you for debuting your first cast with me. It's been a pleasure. And to all of our lovely production for making tonight possible. My name is Piercing. I'm joined with Exia, and this has been Midwest R6. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you next week. Take it easy.